Honourable Member for Laborie.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise to respond to the motion tabled by the Prime Minister to borrow $55 million by means of advances. Madam Speaker, what may seem as a very simple exercise on the surface, we come here from time to time to perform this exercise. The opposition has expressed some serious concerns over time as to how we are managing the resources of this country and dealing with the business of the people. Madam Speaker, as I sat there listening to the Prime Minister, I took my journey through the corridors of time to my preschool days and think of the 43% of men, the comment made about the 43% of men. And my preschool curiosity has caused me to ask whether we are having a serious cash flow problem. Whether the time is not fast approaching when probably civil servants go to the bank and they cannot get paid. Our firemen, our nurses, and as usual, they laugh. Because we on this side have pledged very seriously, Madam Speaker, to subject the taxation of this government, its economic policy, to systematic scrutiny and now to new levels of critical examination. And I will resume normal navigation in this regard. Madam Speaker, my preschool curiosity has prompted me to ask if we had not wasted monies on things like Ojo Labs and all the wastage in this country, whether there would be a need for us to come to the house to borrow in that particular fashion. Madam Speaker, my preschool curiosity has moved me to ask whether, if the CIP program was managed in the way that it was intended, whether there would have been need for us to come and speak about borrowing in this way now. We are on the eve of a new budget cycle. And what was the pressing need to come here today? The Prime Minister make it look like it's a simple thing. My preschool curiosity has instructed me, Madam Speaker, to ask the question that if we had demonstrated great respect for the sacrifices that taxpayers in foreign countries, that our traditional friends and non-traditional friends are making, whether there will be a need for us to borrow to that extent. As a small, open, and vulnerable economy, with high debt to GDP ratios, even though the rebase method has actually given a little soulagement, Madam Speaker, if we didn't jackhammer millions of dollars, if millions of dollars that were spent in the abattoir were not disregarded, the millions that were spent at the St. Joe's Hospital by our foreign governments, would that have been a deterrent to some of them to graciously bless us with some more monies for our own development? RBTT is one of the banks, Madam Speaker, I see appearing there, and most of them are at the domestic level. I remember times that the former Prime Minister and member for Beaufort South used to come here and talk about borrowing from RBTT. And members opposite would have said he has some special relationship with Trinidad. Is the current Prime Minister in the same mode, having that very special relationship with Trinidad, Madam Speaker? Madam Speaker, where is the government that had committed to a private sector-led strategy of development? Where is that government? Where is that party? Madam Speaker, it is well documented, and I learned that at preschool. And I want to refer to a World Bank publication, A Time to Choose, Caribbean Development in the 21st Century. And it stated that to make a private sector-led development strategy work, government must deliver services effectively, compared to the taxes and fees it charges, and maintain a debt level that does not crowd out private investment and is consistent with macroeconomic stability. Let us dissect the anatomy of this statement into its constituent parts. One, to make a private sector-led development strategy work, government must deliver services effectively. That is the role of government, Madam Speaker. And this government is not delivering effectively on services. They have failed to operationalize the new Owen King EU hospital. St. Jude's have been stopped abruptly. They stopped an administrative building in Vieux-Fort that would have improved service delivery in this country. This is not the role of the private sector. It is the role of government. So, Madam Speaker, to make a private sector-led development strategy work, government must maintain a debt level that does not crowd out private investment and is consistent with macroeconomic stability. We are borrowing from Royal Bank of Trinidad and Tobago, Royal Bank of Canada, First Caribbean International Bank, Bank of Nova Scotia, First National Bank of St. Lucia Limited, Bank of St. Lucia. The question is, in this environment that we're in, whether that would not crowd out private sector investment. And of course, my preschool knowledge and curiosity has actually moved me to ask those questions, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, under this government, there seem to be no significant levels of confidence in the economy. The private sector appears to be very cautious in its spending. Also, there has not been any significant government investment in this country. All the boasts, all the bluff and fluff in the last budget to do X, that DSA should have generated so many jobs and there will be so many jobs in the country. That has not come to pass. If you have failing private demand, rising saving ratio, and falling government spending, there will be an even more substantial fall in aggregate demand, making the economic recovery weak and very difficult. Whereas our local private sector has no confidence in this government. For example, if we continue our recklessness, for example, continue to allow ourselves to be blacklisted, we would be forced and disrespecting our international financial institutions like this government has been doing. The last time we were in the House, they attacked the World Bank. But if we continue to do that, we'll be forced into a situation where only at the domestic level we will get some space, and there are outer limits beyond which they will not go. So, Madam Speaker, given this context and given that most of our debt is domestic, borrowing from domestic banks could have a crowding out effect. And, Madam Speaker, again, the opposition will insist that we need to be very cautious about everything that we do. Borrowing in the context of economic sanity must be fundamental today. In the previous administration, we tried our best to reduce the deficit and to ensure that we pursue a course that will strengthen our domestic economy so that we'll deliver better services to the people of this country. And borrowing is one of the things that are very important in the context of everything. And so, Madam Speaker, I conclude by indicating that on the eve of a budget presentation, we are coming here to borrow. My preschool curiosity has caused me to ask the Prime Minister the aforementioned question. And so I'm hoping that he will respond and illuminate the issues further that will lead to deeper understanding. Because he was quite parsimonious in what he said about what he was going to utilize the facility to do. And so it leaves the door wide open to speculation, but I will not enter the realm of speculation. I will leave it to the Prime Minister to, of course, enlighten this Honorable House. I thank you, Madam Speaker.